we've had to make some really hard choices, which is what we are going to talk about here today. It's kind of hurt, and it's been a hard and tough realization to get to, but I guess what we're going to talk about here today is kind of just where we are with things right now.
It's true. So we've talked about this, Jesper and I, for a little while, back and forth. And it's different for me, I think, than for him because I only really joined this YouTube video in January. So this is what, month 8. So I've only been doing this 8 months. So I feel like I'm a little wet behind the ears with the video thing. And it's exciting, but oh my goodness, I've learned so many terms like B-roll. Okay, you Jesper sprung that one on me, and I was like, what the heck is B-roll? And I think I've learned a lot more about video editing than I ever expected, and I decided that I never want to be an actress. It's really hard work. It's like all my spare time goes into the creation of this. And that's for me for just 8 months in. I've told Jesper, how have you done this every single Monday for what, 3 years?
Yeah, I actually did a check earlier on today. The first video was uploaded in July 2016, so it's a bit more than 3 years ago now. And as you said, we've been uploading, or for a while I was alone, but since then you and I have been uploading videos every Monday, and we've not missed one for more than 3 years now. So that's
I almost tried to make us miss one, but no, we fixed that.
yeah, it was a close call.
It
Like,
was a very close call. It was a Sunday night, and it was fine. It was fine.
yeah, we just pulled that through. But luckily, we had one in the bank that we could pull
Yes.
forward. So, but yeah, that's what happens. But at least for me, it's been a true experience to run the Am Writing Fantasy YouTube channel, as it's been for a while now. And before then, it was called Fane of Fantasy, where I only focused on world building for a while in the beginning. And then at some point, Autumn joined these videos and also podcast episodes. And then we changed the name of it to align with the branding that we also have for our other businesses with Am Writing Fantasy, where we both have the website and a Facebook group called the same thing as well. So it's been a long journey and a lot of experiences, I would say.
I agree. I always knew video is sort of the new thing, just like podcasting is the new thing. And I knew I needed to do more of it. I am still one of those people, if I can read something versus watch it, I would prefer 100 times when I go try to Google like a Photoshop tutorial and there's like the video or read the instructions. Read the instructions. So the whole video thing has been really, oh, this is why people do this. It's different from me.
Yeah, but it is very different. And but I have really enjoyed creating the videos also, because I feel like, obviously I'm aware that it's different for those of you who are watching versus me sitting on this other side of the camera. But for some strange reason, I also feel like you sort of get another connection to people when you can see them. Of course, that said, I would also say that the same thing sort of applies with podcasting, because when you are right in people's earbuds and you're talking straight into their ears, you also get this sort of personal connection with people. So, but I have enjoyed over the past 3 years to share information and thoughts or whatever I could, and also after you came on board for the last 8 months, that we both have been trying to help other authors, and I also have to say, for everybody who has ever commented on our videos, thank you for your insightful comments and interesting topics. And I really enjoyed reading those. And also for those of you who have emailed us, I also want to thank for that, because it's always wonderful to get some emails from people who watched the video and how they described how it helped them. And I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. I've loved the comments too. It's one of those things that keep you going. And I know we need to really talk about like why we're looking at these changes. And it's definitely partially, the comments, the number of people watching, it's those comments that really encourage us to keep going and trying to find a way to make all of this work, despite how much effort it really takes on the part of someone producing these videos and really trying to do a good job.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I guess this is where it gets a bit difficult. I would almost say for me, to be honest, because you know, I was checking, or not only today, but I was rechecking today. But usually, sort of, I collect our stats once a month, and then I email them to Autumn for how things are going. And obviously, we're creating these video and podcast episodes because we want to help people. But well, at least I get a bit sad when I then see that on average every video that we create get like between 30 and 50 views, and that's it. You spend an awful lot of time trying to make the videos as engaging as possible, and videos is just a different beast to tackle, because when people are watching videos, you need to think about all the other things you could also be watching on YouTube, and the high production quality that goes into video today. That they Autumn used the word B-roll before, but there's a lot of things happening on the screen. Usually in videos, there's a lot of entertainment, and it takes a lot of effort to try to mix something together that sort of hit those notes so that people actually enjoy watching it on video. And I must say, I've just sort of gotten to the point where it feels to me like it's not necessarily a good use of my time to spend maybe 4-5 hours a week creating a video where 30 people watches it. It feels like, is that really a good use of my time? And that's sort of what I've been both debating with myself, but also with Autumn here recently, because it just, to be very honest, it feels a bit like I'm wasting my time on sometimes, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know I had started way, way back with something called the 15-minute fantasy writer, which were just 15-minute tip videos. And the amount of time those took to make, I kind of walked away from them. Then I signed up again with the I'm Writing Fantasy channel, which it was really exciting. And it was great to be finding another way of helping authors. I love, when I find out that I'm helping that one person who really found the video exciting. But then, yeah, I agree that even after 8 months, realizing, because I haven't been doing this for 3 years, and it's still a huge learning curve for me. And just taking a break at it, I mean, I just put writing aside. I've put a lot of other stuff aside. Haven't been updating the I'm Writing Fantasy blog as much because it's just these videos. For Jesper, it might take 4 or 5 hours, but I think for me, I know when it comes editing day, it's literally 6 to 8 hours plus the uploading. And I'm always excited. I am really excited to do them because I think that information's important. I love presenting it in a new way. It's sort of like doing the courses, but more spontaneous, where the courses are more scripted. And so it's really fun that way. But you get it all that done and you release it on Monday, and it is really hard to see that you put in 8-10 hours of work on my end to come up with maybe 2 comments and 30 views. And yeah, it's you gotta question, how long can this be sustainable? For me, it's been 8 months, and I find it like, wow, I don't know how, Jesper, you've done this for 3 years. You've managed to grow it. You have managed to grow the channel, and that's fantastic and amazing. But yeah, 3 years in, it is hard when it's like we have just over 1,300-1,200 subscribers now.
Mm.
But out of those subscribers, not if 1,200 people were coming every single week to watch every video, I think we'd be pretty ecstatic. But it's just not working that way.
No, I mean, I've never expected all subscribers to watch all videos. I don't think that happens almost on any channel at all on YouTube. But at least I mean, out of 1,300 subscribers, I would like to see more than 30 people watching, actually. And I don't mind the numbers per se in that way, but what I do mind is if I don't see any growth from it. If it's 30 views this month and then 50 next month and 70 in the month after that, then that's good. I mean, then we're seeing it's growing. But the problem is that it has been stagnant for probably 6 months or more now, and it's not growing at all. And I do realize, and I have to be, look in the mirror and all that stuff here to see, it's my or our own fault, in the sense that there's something that we're not doing right from a video media perspective that doesn't catch the attention that it should be catching. And it's not for lack of trying different things, I would say, because as I said before, I started out with focusing on world building. Then I changed the focus into, for a while, I tried to make some more funny videos so that they were not as focused on trying to be as helpful, but more a bit more funny stuff. That really didn't work out. I wasn't the best to do that, but I tried it. So that didn't work out. And then later on, we started adding interviews as well to get other authors on, and I still enjoy those, and I think it's good to get other people's perspective as well. Then Autumn came on board, and we rebranded it. And then we sort of went with it for, I can't remember, I think like 3-4 months we gave it to see if it made any difference. It did not really make any difference. Still, in the stats were more or less the same as it was before. Then we actually threw some money after it because we realized that, okay, there's something we're doing wrong, but we don't know what it is. So we hired actually a YouTube consultant who then helped us in giving us some advice on what we could be doing differently and how. And we implemented everything he said. And now we're like 3 months later, and honestly, there is still no difference at all. So that's sort of why we have this announcement video here today, because we feel like we need to do something, because we're not spending our time the way we both wish to spend our time. And to be honest, when we are recording these videos, as Autumn said, we are not writing. So there is that consequence, direct correlation there that we need to take into account, because at the end of the day, writing and of course also producing content for authors, because we do have the Am Writing Fantasy brand, but those things are at the end of the day what needs to make it all sustainable. And if there's not a correlation between enough people getting something value out of these videos, then we have to question ourselves of why are we doing it. And somewhere along that journey, we also decided, sort of as an add-on only actually in the beginning, to add the Am Writing Fantasy podcast. So it was more like, at least initially for me, it was more like I was thinking, well, we have these video files anyway, and you could just strip out all the video and then upload the audio file to a podcast feed, and voila, then you have a podcast without any extra work.
Yeah, and that's what's kind of surprising, because I mean, obviously we're doing this to not just be, we're authors and we want to be able to write. We don't want to see our own writing stagnate, but we also want to help authors. And so there's a certain, ways we can do that and ways we've experimented. And surprisingly, I think to both of us, where we're struggling so much with the YouTube channel and trying to put a really high-end production and just seeing it stay static for so long, the podcast numbers are crazy for something we just kind of stripped off the audio off the video to see what would happen.
Yeah, and again, in preparation for today's conversation here, I actually pulled some numbers, and
I knew you would. That's why I didn't say anything.
Exactly. Yeah, and actually, the podcast has only been live for 6 months, and since the first month until now, 6 months later, the amount of monthly downloads has grown by 500% since it started. So it's insane. And the thing that is really, I mean, on one hand, I think I know why, and here's why I think it is. Because today, in today's day and age, or today's busy world, everybody is doing so many things that the one thing that podcast does really, really, really well is that you can do it while you're doing other things. So while you're doing the laundry, you can just listen to a podcast. While you are, picking up groceries, or
driving across country,
like Autumn, or what it may be, then you can just listen to podcasts. Whereas YouTube videos, you have to sit down and you have to actively sort of, okay, now I'm here to watch something. And as soon as you do that, you are competing against attention from maybe some other very, very high production value shows, or maybe Netflix or HBO or whatever else you could be watching on your TV. And you're sort of competing against that media, whereas podcast in audio format, it's much more convenient for people, and it's so easy. And I think that's why it has grown. But I also have to say that we do realize, and that was, well, I guess you can sort of call it on purpose, but we do realize that because we made it as an add-on to the video, not all the podcast episodes has been fair to our podcast listeners, in the sense that some of the videos has been like, for example, I could just remember one that I recorded about KDP Rocket, for example, where I was sharing things on the screen about here's how KDP Rocket looks inside, and you can click here and you can do that and blah, 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 blah. And to a podcast listener, that makes absolutely zero sense. So you're basically just listening to me talking about something that you can't see.
Yeah.
So
I think
yeah,
50% of my videos have been that way. So
yeah, and that's not fair, to be honest.
no.
But on the other hand, we were clear from the beginning that the podcast was just an add-on, and if you wanted to see things, then you could go to the YouTube video and sort of see what you needed to see. And I think probably about half of the podcast episodes has been ones that you could easily listen to without seeing the video.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's not been ideal, and we know that. So
Which
sorry,
is why
podcast listeners.
yeah, so yes, apologies to all current podcast listeners that we've been so unfair to you, because holy crap, 500% growth for something that we know we haven't focused on. That's like, we're over here tending this garden and you look behind you and like the one that you've been neglecting is thriving, and you think, great, okay, do I go back to trying to weed my neglected this garden that's, I'm struggling with, and it's not doing anything exceptional, where I've got magic beans growing behind me, and maybe I should just give them a little bit more time and care and see how they're going to sprout and where they're going to grow.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess, yeah, so basically this is all the stuff that we've been talking about here is what has sort of been well, part of our weekly business conversations for a while, or Autumn and I, and at least for me, as I said in the beginning, it's been a bit of a struggle to arrive at a conclusion, because I do really feel like, after putting 3 years in, it's you gotta get to a stage where it feels hard to change around, or move away from it, because you spent so much time and effort in building that YouTube subscriber base, and then it's really tough. But at the end, we've sort of arrived at a conclusion that it might be tough, but it has to be done. And we're basically going to shift things around, so that whereas before the Am Writing Fantasy podcast was an add-on, the Am Writing Fantasy podcast going forward will be the main focus. And what that means is that we're gonna turn 180 degrees around, so you podcast listeners out there can be happy, because as you can see, if well, no, you cannot see it, but the guys on YouTube can see it. This is the problem I'm talking about. But I have like a sound shield here around my microphone, and we are looking into using some new recording software as well, and we are trying to up our game in terms of audio quality here, so that hopefully it's going to be a much more enjoyable experience for the podcast listeners going forward, to listen to. I mean, I listen to a ton of podcasts myself, and I hate, because before I got this sound shield and this setup and whatnot, I do realize that many of the interviews we had, or these joint sessions that Autumn and I had, on my end, I always generate a lot of echo on the Google Hangout sessions that we used to record with, and Google Hangout is not ideal either. And then the microphone setup was not ideal, so that was not too good. But focusing on podcast first also means that we had to up our game, and that's basically what we're planning to do here now.
Up our audio game and learn to describe things better using our words, so that we're
Oh.
not telling you just go look at it on your screen. But yeah, so we're going to switch to, giving our podcast listeners that priority. But it is, you asked where you put 3 years in, so we can't walk away from the subscribers who are here. We're just going to, instead of stripping the audio from our YouTube videos, we're going to take our audio and add it to a branded image. So it's going to look different. You're not going to see our faces. Actually, we made that decision. We've been fighting with it, but the ideal recording software that we came up with that'll make a very nice sounding podcast does not have video, and it helps generate the best sound, because then you're not fighting that video feed and audio feed, and we're talking not quite halfway around the world to each other, but in real time, it is going on 7:11 for you, and it's 2:11 in the afternoon for me. So we're several hours apart, an entire ocean apart. So video Yeah, this makes it a little more challenging when you and I get together because we have to worry about time zones quite frequently. So this is going to take care of that. We're not going to have to fight sending signals and electrons all the way around the world so that we can talk and see each other at the same time. We're actually going to just talk to each other and talk to our listeners. And that'll be really exciting to just have that focus and use our words to describe the spreadsheets or whatever we want you to visualize in your mind while not driving. You focus on the road, but make sure to hopefully give you a taste of what we're talking about and be able to help you with your writing and world building and marketing and all those things that we've been helping with before, but in a different way.
Yeah. So the good news of all of this is that you're still gonna get every Monday episode uploaded. So we will upload a podcast every Monday, like we've always done, and we will also upload a YouTube video in quotation marks
Yeah.
every Monday, because as Autumn said, there's going to be no image. I guess, at least for my part, you're only going to be happy about that, but that you can't see me anymore going forward. But
are you kidding? Now I can show up, like, since I travel all the time, I can just be covered in mud
pajamas and
and
stuff.
yeah, pajamas, slapping mosquitoes. I'll be sitting next to the crackling fire. I'll be like, give you some sound effects of the fire crackling. I'll work on that.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna generate the new challenge for us is to make sure that we produce as good as audio quality as we can. But but going forward, at least if you are watching on YouTube right now and you would actually rather listening on podcast going forward, just head down into the description field and there is a link to the podcast there. So you just go over and subscribe. Or if you are listening on the podcast feed already, then you can be happy to going forward. We actually have some brand new branded music that is going to appear from next week onwards to introduce our new podcast and newish. New? Can you say new? I don't know what you can call it, but the podcast anyway. Revamped podcast. Yeah, that's better. We'll go with that. So that's going to change, and then I should also say that the format of the podcast episodes or the weekly stuff here is going to change as well, because a podcast medium is different from a YouTube medium, meaning that on YouTube, you would sometimes get just one of us on a video where we would be like 10 minutes and we would present like, here's this topic and da 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 da, and here are the points, right? That's sort of how YouTube works, and you sort of get
It's
to the
boom, boom,
point as
boom, boom,
quickly.
boom.
Yeah, exactly. And going forward, you will probably, I can't say never, but I would say most likely you're never going to get just one of us anymore. And you're not going to get only 10 minutes. It's probably going to be like more like 40 minutes episodes going forward. And it's going to be much more conversational. We're still going to have a topic that we're going to cover in each episode. And we're still going to give you tips on marketing and writing and all the stuff that we used to do. But it's going to be much more in a conversational format that goes well with a podcast medium. And I think also at least what I expect myself when I'm listening to podcasts, I enjoy listening to hosts talking and having a bit of banter and also sharing a bit of stories about what's happening in their life and stuff like that. So we'll have to try to get into a different mentality and mindset when we record this going forward.
Yeah, secretly what we're not really telling them is that Jesper and I, we just like talking about writing so much that we're just really finding an excuse to keep talking,
Yeah,
having
except
longer
commas and stuff.
conversations.
I don't want to talk about commas and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's all. It's really just a way of us, being able to talk more as authors about writing and world building and not have to be quite so on top of things and kind of hyper, because I think we're both more laid back people.
Yeah. So I guess sort of in rounding off here, I would like to say a huge thank you to those of you who have actually tuned in on YouTube every week and watched the videos, those 30 to 50 people of you. I mean, it might not be many, but each one of you, thank you a lot for sticking with it and watching the videos. And that's the whole reason why we create this stuff in the first place. So, but hopefully you will still enjoy listening to the audio of our conversations going forward, or you can just head on over and follow us on your favorite podcast feed and then you can enjoy hopefully a better experience going forward.
Thank you so much for tuning in, and hugs to all the people who have been here every single week and been watching us. So thank you for that, and I look forward to seeing you in the podcast. And maybe we'll share pictures every once in a while, just so you know we're still alive. Or come follow our Instagram. Yeah, probably not. Come over to the Writing Fantasy blog. You'll see us there. Or at least, there'll be ways to finding us. But thank you so much for all your time, and we hope we're still helping you. And definitely send us your comments. We love hearing from people. It means a lot to us. And so that's all I want to say. Thank you again, and stay safe out there.
All right. And friends, a lot of work goes into this stuff. So if you want to check out Patreon, please do that. There is a link in the description field below. So go check that out. It really makes a difference in terms of doing all this work. So, but thank you a lot, and see you next Monday.
See you next Monday.